So my name is Shelly Farnham. I'm with Third Place Technologies. We're a nonprofit startup focusing on how can we leverage technologies to empower communities. And this is our website, and you can see your list of activities here. But one of the main ideas is to really help communities help themselves through innovation, through engagement with community organizers, and so forth. And one of our main projects is called Spokin. The goal is to enable networking with a purpose, or as mentioned earlier, communities in action. People who are really engaged or want to be engaged with their local communities, helping them find people, connect with people, share information with each other, assess what's happening in their community, and then ultimately organize to improve their communities. And so this is something that we've been working on for almost 2 years now. We had a soft release this summer. It's super buggy still, but you can go in there and hang out with it. And we are working towards sort of a more polished version late this winter, early next year. And what I wanted to mention was, we're talking about today was, we as a part of this project, we pulled in a whole lot of data. We're combining a lot of different sources in our community analytics, both manually entered information that people can get as people who are really actively involved in the community, but also information that we're pulling from, census data, the open data, whatever sources that we can find, but really trying to focus on what are metrics that could potentially impact the well-being of a community, and then representing that to members of that community so they can act on that information. So I'll just give you a sense of what that's like. Then we'll go to communities, and we pre-populated with communities of King County, so neighborhoods, but also a couple of communities of practice. So for example, I want to show you, this is one of the ones that we focused on, populating with a bit more information to start. So the International District, which we're actually in, you see sort of a network map of organizations and people and the themes and how they're all connected. And then within, we also have directories essentially of organizations or events or parks and so forth that are in the community. So I can expand here, and see even more, and then kind of filter on the right there. Well, what if I just want to look at events, So a big event here is, it's a little buggy, is Dragon Fest. But here I can see, okay, wait, Dragon Fest is a big event, as anyone around here knows, but who actually organizes it? So, okay, it's Cipida. And then I can actually go to them and learn more about them. And while I'm there, looking at this nonprofit organization that's really actively engaged in the local community, then also get a sense for, okay, well, what are the events that they're actually sponsoring, and then really begin to sort of think about how can I engage with this neighborhood, how can I become a part of that set of people who are actively organizing. So we incorporated, like I said, a lot of data, and one of the things that we did is we're integrating into this well-being report card. We're pulling all this information together and saying, well, okay, your neighborhood relative to other neighborhoods, here how you fare or vary along these metrics that could potentially impact your community's well-being. And so, there are a lot of things that can impact your well-being. Your social vitality, do you have thriving workplaces, so forth, and you can see over here how you compare to other neighborhoods. And if I actually I can dive in on any of these socioeconomic status. So this is sort of a really brief highlight of what Spokin is. But one thing I want to talk about is the challenge of sort of doing this sort of data analysis and trying to represent it back to people, like every day as in not data experts. How can they actually act on this data? To give you a feeling for that, I want to show you when we're doing the initial analytics, trying to understand what are the relative, what is the relative importance of all these different variables on well-being. It looks originally like this, right? Like these are regression analysis results, looking at the relative impact of all these variables. Do they actually statistically significantly impact our outcome variables, and so forth? But And you can have data like this and plug it into a paper in an academic community, but that's the only people who are going to understand it. How do you help, like I said, people who are not scientists understand how these variables relate to each other and then potentially impact the well-being of your neighborhood so that you can then act on it? And so that's that, we actually just had a focus group for Spokin, and we have to go play around with this. And it's actually really difficult to get to that point where I really understand, what does this red mean? Unemployment, 62nd percentile, you know what I mean? So we have a key and we explain the data, but it's actually pretty challenging. And so, one of the things that we can really evolve on, as we're sort of designing these tools, is thinking about how do you make these complex relationships understandable to our end users. Another challenge that we faced sort of dealing with all this is there's actually a lot of processing involved to get to this point. So I just want to show you here. So we originally, here are all our neighborhoods. This is in SPSS, which is a stats tool. And we had 721 variables, right? There's so much data that you can analyze. And you can be a data, what do you call it, hoarder. But you really want to get to the ones that are meaningful, and this is where we use our statistical analysis to actually pare down to what are the ones that actually meaningfully impact our outcome variables, one of them being the well-being metric that we have. So distill it down to the ones that are actually significantly impacting those outcomes and then putting that in our user interface. And so there's actually a lot of processing involved, right? Getting even to this point, one of the most important things that we did, how am I doing on time? I know this doesn't mean much to you, but for me this is a very important file, which translates the different levels of aggregation. So either you're a zip code, your block, your census block, your entire city, town, right? So how do you get this data at these different levels of analysis, but you want it at this level. So translating from one level to the next level is actually there's a lot of sort of work involved, especially when a lot of it's overlapping, right? So zip codes aren't necessarily nested within neighborhoods. There's actually overlapping, so you have to do this proportionate weighting to do these aggregations up and down nesting levels, levels of analysis. Another thing is, even pulling in the data, so I just want to get you a sense of that. So this is we're doing data imports using, this is Visual Studio here. But, here, for example, we're importing from Socrata, and there's actually a lot of analysis just to get it to a point where we can be reading it in a meaningful way within our system. Another issue is, we have to convert everything we get into where neighborhood it's in. And so here we're using address information. Or latitude and longitude. So we have the address, we have to get the latitude and longitude for every single entity, then incorporate that into our aggregations. Like I said, there's just a whole lot of sort of steps that you have to go through. And one of the things, for example, that we really thought was important, because we're talking about community technology, is how do you, we wanted to get places, for example, community places specifically, so there's a lot of information that we're able to get from Socrata, but there's also a lot of information that they didn't quite have in there, like restaurants by address. It's just not available unless you actually have to pay for that data, so we did that, right? One last point I wanted to make was, again, there's always some construct that is a significant import, but how do you measure, right? What data is out there to help you measure it? And one of them that we've been really interested in is civic engagement. How do you measure civic engagement with available data that's out there? And one thing that we're beginning to realize is that, wait a minute, there's all this voting registration data that we could use. And so we just got a hold of that, and it's actually pretty cool, but there's all this analysis that we're going to have to do even to get to where we can say by neighborhood what the sort of engagement proportionately through registration information is. So anyways, a lot goes into it, and a lot of work goes into it just to get to that point where someone can see, oh, okay, well, we need to worry about our civic engagement as well. Anyway, so I'd love to, design how, if anybody's, there aren't many .NET developers in this community, but if you are, I'd love to talk to you. Designers, people who like to play with data. We've got so much to work with. I can't even tell you how much data we have to play with. It's actually really hard to find the time to give it proper attention.